This is Jann Murray-García. I am pediatrician and an activist in my heart, and an associate health sciences clinical professor in the Betty Irene Moore School of Nursing. I'm more nervous than usual because we have such amazing guests. I mean, Dr. Lubarsky is pretty amazing, but Leonor Anthony, the artist of the work we're going to talk about, is actually, I'm glad I didn't look her up before I contacted her. She is so remarkably accomplished. But be that as it may, we're moving forward, Leonor. So if I could tell.
Just really quick, we have about 90 participants, but we had a few more that are going to be joining us. So
Okay.
I just want to give you a heads up.
What does that mean? Would you like me to stop or go, or?
I think you should say hello to everybody really quick.
And just keep going, Victoria?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, that's my director, Victoria. She's going to keep me honest here. Victoria No, who's a postdoc in the School of Nursing, working with both me and Dr. Lubarsky. I just want to thank our partners in the Office of Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for their technical support, their support with announcing this. Thank you so much. Again, I'm going to announce that this is being recorded so other folks who couldn't be here can enjoy it. I want to tell you the story of this session. When Victoria and I had a brief meeting with Dr. Lubarsky back in April 2019. I'd never been in his office in the medical education building. And when I walked in, this is on kind of the back wall, so you're getting ready to sit down, and I was immediately struck by this piece of art. And if you can see me in the corner there of your screen, it is a massive piece of art. Hard to communicate on Zoom. It is three-dimensional, so the saxophone is a saxophone. And the album covers are album covers. And it just immediately struck me, and I turned around to Dr. Lubarsky and I kind of said, Dr. Lubarsky, what's going on here? and I have to say, as I've gotten to talk with Leonor for a bit, I was telling her art isn't just about how it strikes the person seeing it, but how it brings us together. This is not my vision of Dr. David Lubarsky, and it actually connected us in a very distinctive way. And I just thank Leonor for her artwork and for that happening. And not long after that, I asked Dr. Lubarsky if he would do a noon conference talking about the work. And he said, yes, why not? He's always game for stuff like this. And so we set it up for late spring, I believe, and then COVID happened. And this is a narrow window. I know people are still working hard under life-threatening conditions, but we wanted to go ahead and maybe have this be a sweet reprise for everything our nation is going through, and the hospital system and all those frontline providers who are caring for those precious patients. So let me introduce the author to you, and then I want her to do most of the talking. Dr. Lubarsky is going to join us at about 12:25, but we get to talk with Ms. Anthony before that. So again, this is a world-renowned artist who you could have in your living room with tea and you would not necessarily know that. Just a really lovely individual. She was born in Havana, Cuba, and immigrated to the United States with her family at 5 years of age. She's a published author, scholar, artist, photographer, and as of a couple days ago, director of a music video as well. That's not quite ready for prime time. They have some more editing to do. She's known for her courageous use of materials and by creating works that invoke controversial issues. She calls herself an artivist, so an artist who uses her art as a vehicle for activism. She, again, her works are hanging all over the world. She holds an artist in residence position at Florida International University. And that is a big deal. Okay, should we move forward? Leonor, and I just want to say I asked her for maybe a PDF of her work so we could be true to the piece. And back in March, she's like, well, can I fly out there and be part of the new conference? And I was not expecting that. I'm just so thrilled to introduce to you Leonor Anthony.
Thank you. Thank you for all the kind words. I'm humbled, and thank you for having me today.
Do you, I want to just say, as this is a very special time in our country, we were talking about this quote yesterday from Toni Morrison. It says, "This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There is no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. That is how civilizations heal." So,
amen.
Amen. So my first question for you, I'm just going to call you Leonor, but Miss Anthony, you know, is my first question is, as an artist, what has this time been like for you? The pandemic and the long overdue kind of reckoning with racism in this country.
The pandemic has been quite an interesting time for me, and I'm sure for just about everyone. At the very beginning, I think that I've gone through like stages of different feelings. Certainly at the beginning, I was terrified. Just listening to all these news, what is happening, followed by a couple of weeks where I just couldn't stop crying and watching everything that was happening in New York City, and it was just breaking my heart. And one of my artist friends in New York, who kept checking on me because he knew that I just kept crying and I was falling apart, and he just said, you need to get out of the house, of course, be safe, and start documenting everything, and do what you do. So after I cried enough and I was terrified, and then I wasn't so afraid, still afraid a little because I have asthma, but the minute I got out and just started documenting everything changed. Because I was doing. I wasn't so much sitting back waiting for things to happen to me, but to speak out and record everything that was going on in the community, the good, the bad, the homeless in the streets, the people in the food line. And I remember one day I was in the food line just videotaping in and out of the cars, and somebody comes out of the car, one of the cars, with a violin. It started playing for everyone. So it was these little moments of magic that just happened in front of me. And so I've just been working like crazy, like you said. And then the murder of George Floyd happened. And then that set up as we all know, this whole new set of events that also needed to be recorded and worked with. So this has been one of the busiest times for me.
Ironic.
In a time of reckoning, and a time that I feel so connected with so many. Instead of feeling isolated, I'm connected to the entire world through these little screens, but we're connected. We're going through this thing, all of us together.
I feel that, Leonor. I felt that when both in our emails and when we talked yesterday. It's been a gift. Can I ask you to talk about this piece in general? I know some artists don't want to prescribe or be too specific about what they want folks to experience in their artwork. But was there some message you were trying to communicate? And like you did with me yesterday, Leonor, will you take me through the
process?
Artwork?
Well, the work is a celebration of jazz. So when I started working with Italian photographer Roberto Polillo, who a lot of these images that you see in the piece he took them in Italy in the 60s and 70s as a young man. His father was the biggest jazz promoter in Italy after the war. And so he had unprecedented access to everyone. So when he showed me his photographs, my life changed. Jazz changed my life. And so this piece and every piece that I did, I've done now like at least 20 pieces, were inspired by the jazz photographs, but also inspired by these amazing American musicians who against all odds, continued to be the greatest they could possibly be, and to represent our country abroad with our truly American art form, which is jazz. So tell you a little bit, I have the book here, so this will be easier for me because it's the cover of the book. So can you see it? Because I can't see myself. So
yes, yes.
Okay. Normally, when I do any piece, because of the way we read from left to right, my most important parts is how do I get your attention? So it's the left corner. And so I dedicated that corner to Ella Fitzgerald. And so I start telling the story of these musicians and the flag. I use a lot of flags. I have a series of there's about 30 to 40 of these jazz paintings, very large jazz paintings, because I love the flag. Let's start with that. It has meant so much for me, for my family, for the families of so many people that have come from different countries. And so it's an exaltation of the flag. And usually with the flag as a centerpiece, I tell a different story. In this case, it's a story of jazz. Jazz in the 60s, using a lot of the photographs of Roberto. The flag, as you see, it's never a new flag. And if it's a new flag, it'll be new for like a second because I'm gonna make it have texture, because we have texture. And we have gone through so much together, from the good, the bad, and the beautiful. So this is my way to, in this case, this piece is called Reminiscing in Tempo. And it is reminiscing of the 60s and the civil rights movement and jazz at that time. And that's why the saxophone that sticks out. And it's a celebration also of music. Music is a universal language. It was, I think, also music what brought you and Dr. Lubarsky to a different level. Certainly myself and Roberto Polillo and myself and now my new super, well, it's like I said, it's changed my life. An extraordinary connection to jazz and to our music. So if you go through it, it's just telling a story of people like John Coltrane, like Charlie Parker, Ella, Louis Armstrong, Miles Davis, all of our greatest jazz musicians, all in one piece of work, all of them coming together to make a point to represent our nation, to represent our music. Pretty much what we're doing now.
Tell me how jazz changed your life.
Well, when I first saw the photographs, I knew the photographs were beautiful, but I didn't know that much about jazz. I actually play classical piano, and jazz was a little disturbing because it was so free that it was actually intimidating. Mm-hmm. But through the photographs and through the work that the photographs inspired, and through the stories, because I do a lot of research, it just has changed everything. And my work is now freer. I listen to jazz all the time. I realized that the reason that I maybe shied away from jazz is because I was afraid to be free myself. It is such a big responsibility and a little bit scary to be completely free. And so it has changed everything. Now the music is completely part of my life. I know that it's always going to be part of my life. So it's been an enormous awakening to music.
That's amazing. Tell me, was there something you wanted to communicate or some message? Sometimes artists say, no, I can't tell you. The person looking at it has to tell you what it means. But you're very intentional with your art, if I'm not mistaken, right, Leonor?
I think I'm intentional with the concept. Certainly in here, and it's always pretty much the same. That's what the artivism part is, whether I'm doing a piece on women, or I'm doing a piece on civil rights or human rights or the environment. I am going to put my soul out there. That piece is my soul. Hopefully whoever sees it has a reaction to it. Any reaction. Does it touch you? Does it do anything for you? If it does, then I've succeeded. So it's not necessarily a single message. I'm just really letting you know what I believe in, what I hope for, and what I need help in accomplishing, and hopefully I get little converts. I can't do this alone. We have to do this together.
That's beautiful. Artists have such an important part in that healing and rebuilding, right? Can you tell me, you took me through this, and is that Nina Simone and kind of towards the right-hand corner? And can you tell me about her, why you placed her there with that expression?
That's not Nina Simone. Nina Simone is usually somewhere, but basically, to bring you right back into the conversation. If I put C in the corner, you have Ella singing this way. So I'm grabbing your eyes, coming this way. These folks are looking in. I'm kind of manipulating you to follow, and then you follow the flag, and all these lines on the saxophone, and then you've got Dizzy Gillespie, you have Duke Ellington, you have Coltrane, and then you may come here, and as you're going, oh no, you didn't. You're not leaving this thing so fast. and then I send you right back over here again.
Okay.
And then I let you go at the end with John Coltrane and the cigar. Now you can go.
Now,
Now you can go.
yesterday too, you were talking about that intriguing woman there turning us back so that we were looking at the flag. Tell me what the rent or ripped nature of the flag means for you.
That's us. This is kind of like, you know, when you go to Thanksgiving dinner and like everyone in your family's there, and then one of your uncles is maybe drunk and saying crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And
We all have.
But that's still your family. So this is us. A little tattered at times, a little beat up. Could we be better? Absolutely. We could be anything we want because we're Americans and we've already proved that. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. Absolutely. So the fact that I'm always ripping and well, this one came like this. This is a very old flag, and I got it at like a secondhand store for like $5. Like, do you really want? Yes, I want it because it represents us. We don't, even though when we're like beat up and a little bit tattered, we're absolutely beautiful. Everything we've gone through and everything we're going to go through only adds. It adds. It doesn't take away. So I have her looking back like, don't you leave. We got work to do. We got work to do. And we're doing it. Look, we're here talking. We're listening to each other. When we start listening to each other again, we will be able to solve, I think, just about everything.
So I think, and I'll ask Dr. Lubarsky when he comes, but it's in that poignant part of your piece where the American flag is rent, but still alive, that I think we haven't gone far enough into in terms of ending health disparities by race. And I agree. And I do think it's going to be delving into the history of how we've done America together. I think that's going to be one of the keys that's going to unlock our pursuit of to end health disparities. Let me ask you, how does it feel to be the focus of an academic health system noon conference? We usually talk about kidneys or you know,
I beat the kidney to the conversation. It's a good day. I am profoundly honored and humbled that we're talking about art in the middle of everything that we're going through. So thank you. I will have to do something for my own kidneys so that they don't feel left out.
Very good.
I'm very thankful.
Oh no, we're so thankful to have you here. Is Dr. Lubarsky on yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions for Leonor, Miss Anthony, the artist here?
Feel free to also put the question in the chat, and I could field it towards.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So, what is the university? How is the university addressing some of these issues?
Oh, that's a complicated question in layers, right? So we don't American history, American race relations, racial bias, those things are a part of the fabric of our nation, and they don't stop at the doors of our hospital or schools of health. And I think we're tangling with it. and sitting with it. A report just came out, racial report card. We are also, dealing and grieved by the racial disparities in COVID testing in our city, as well as COVID incidents in our city, which, as you might guess, follows the map of redlining, the redlining history of Sacramento. So we're deep in it, and we're trying to, there are a lot of anti-racism offerings, and I'm really encouraged. This time, Leonor, as we share this, I think you said that there seems to be a multiracial, eager group, especially of young Americans, who want to go headlong and tackle the issue of racial inequity in our country, and a number of social institutions. And I'm hopeful. We just have to keep going. I'm hopeful.
Of course.
My biggest fear is that after the headlines recede, we'll just go back to the status quo until there's another tragedy. So I love your.
Hopefully, yeah.
Just wanted to let you know that Dr. Lubarsky's just joined the room.
Great.
Okay, great.
Dr. Lubarsky.
Hi there. How are
Hey,
you?
good. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
I already told the story of how Victoria and I walked into your office and we're verklempt. We're an immediate connection with the fact that you would have something like this so boldly displayed in your office. Thanks for agreeing to do this too.
Oh no, it's truly my pleasure, and of course, all the thanks really goes to Leonor for creating such a great piece and such a meaningful piece of art.
Yeah, even in your new office, people were talking about it as with such enthusiasm. Tell me what attracted you to this piece of art, Dr. Lubarsky?
Well, first and foremost, its visual impact is obviously dramatic. It is at both a celebration of the history of jazz and a focus on the sort of tattered way the American society treated the greatest jazz musicians from the time of the creation of the genre back in New Orleans in the 1910s, 1920s. And symbolic of how greatness was not always well recognized in the United States, just because it didn't fit the sound or the look of the traditional white musicians in America.
That's deep. We could stay there for a second, huh? Let me just recommend people if they want more information on the history of jazz and how it relates to the history of our country, especially race relations. Leonor recommended Jazz, the series by Ken Burns. It's really, we just saw the first one last night. It's really, yeah, really helpful as well. So Dr. Lubarsky, what about this piece made it appropriate for the office of a CEO at a major academic health system and the ABC of a world-class university?
All right. Well, I think hopefully, first of all, we're at a university where the open exploration of ideas, the challenge of authority, the creation of something new, beautiful, and wonderful is part of what is the fabric of what makes for an academic enterprise. So, so number one is the fact that art, modern art, obviously has a place in any modern university, but especially art that speaks to modern sentiment and a challenging thought process that doesn't accept the status quo, given its insufficient approach to equity, deserves a place in every one's office, and especially the CEO's office, where you're charged to lead 15,000 employees and 1,000 students and 1,000 faculty members. I think it's important to sometimes make an important statement, which I think this piece does.
Yeah, the renting of the flag was really something you pointed out to Victoria and I right away.
Yeah, well, again, it's not, our history is our history. We are not doomed to repeat it or perpetuate it, but we are required to understand it, right, in order to move beyond it. Mm-hmm. And I think, all you have to do is actually listen to some of the album, especially, John Coltrane, who was very much an activist in his own way, and wrote pieces in response to the civil rights movement back in the 60s. It was never easy. It was harder, frankly, in the 60s, maybe. And now it's a little easier to speak up. Not perfectly easy, but certainly easier than it was in the 60s. And these people portrayed on this piece were all incredibly courageous advocates for civil rights.
Indeed. Also, Charles Mingus, so many of them spoke out. Max Roach, with the album We Insist, which is at the very corner of the painting, so courageous to speak out like they did at a time where they had everything to lose for doing so.
Yeah, there was no guarantee that, as Leonor says, that great musical talent would win over against an establishment that was not committed to an open racial dialogue. So there again, sometimes I don't know that we appreciate, how much the forebears of this civil rights movement in the music industry really put their livelihood and their ability to tour and be accepted, as the great artists that they were. They're by being who they were, and they're very they're great role models, to be quite honest.
It's interesting. The most American of art forms. Created by Black folks.
Yeah, well, and again, I think that's the great thing about jazz. It is truly, there's no doubt that it originated in America. It originated within the African American community. And it developed and flourished despite that, and despite attempts to, frankly, keep it in the basement, if you will, especially in the southern part of the United States, and the migration of most great jazz artists to the north over the course of the Depression, World War II era, are indicative of what should not have to happen, right? In order to find your destiny, you shouldn't have to move.
A great migration of Blacks from the South. I want to, my last question before we open it up, and Victoria says there are lots of questions. So my last question for you, Dr. Lubarsky, is what kind of intersections do you see in this piece and the challenge of ending health inequities, especially by race and ethnicity in the United States?
Right. Well, to a certain degree, the ability of jazz to succeed in the United States was constrained by the way that it was popularized, where it was allowed to be played. And it was a sort of redlining, if you will, in the music industry. And, the greatest venues and the greatest concert halls were not initially open to the greatest musicians of the greatest American music genre. And so I think that it sort of has parallels, because we need to make sure that we treat everyone, right, with the respect and the sensitivity to their life and their expression of life. And in health, there's a lot of this is right, this is wrong, these are the resources that are available, and you're a good person if you have mental health issues or not. You're not a good person, right? There are all these things that are undercurrents where we build walls around people trying to receive the help that they need based on the life that they're living. And so, I guess the role that we have is to understand, the injustices actually suffered by the early jazz artists, when they were trying to just simply, like I said, achieve their destiny.
Mhm.
And we need to, in health at the very least, give people the opportunity to have the healthiest, best life that they can, so they can pursue their destiny in every single endeavor that they have.
You know, it's ironic too that there's so few African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans in faculties of schools of health. And this piece talks about how we could be part of clarifying those questions and maybe asking a different set of questions and posing a different set of solutions for me.
Right. Again, I think that goes to, you couldn't be a great black jazz musician and playing some of the white big bands in the 1940s, right? It was
Yeah.
right. So how could people aspire to be something they could not see, right? So I think it's along those lines. We have and are continuing to pursue a very aggressive recruitment and pipeline strategy in order to increase dramatically the diversity of our faculty. It is not something that can be done overnight, but it is something that can be done from day one in terms of commitment, which I think that we're trying to demonstrate.
Yeah, we have one of the most diverse groups of medical students in the state, if not the nation. So that's a great thing. Victoria No, who is the postdoc working with Dr. Lubarsky and me this year, is going to just call out some questions for you and Ms. Leonor from the audience.
Yeah, thank you everybody for sending the questions. The first question comes from C. Chalmers. What are some future art pieces and themes do you have planned, Leonor?
I'm now working on a whole series of paintings that I'm doing with bras. I'm collecting bras from lots and lots and lots of women. I have over 1,000 of them already. And
okay, here we go.
This was inspired by a human chain of women in India that were not permitted to go into the temple. And so they stood outside. The power of a human chain is just remarkable, of just people holding hands and just standing out there and making a point peacefully. And so normal people just saw a bunch of women. I saw a lot of bras.
Okay.
And the fact that the bras could go, kind of go into one another.
Wow.
So I've done already 2 of those pieces. I was awarded a very prestigious artist residency, which unfortunately got delayed until next year. But I will be the first Cuban-born artist at the North Pole. 5 artists, 5 scientists next October. And I'm certainly planning to take as many bras as they allow me to take up there and start the chain of women. This is not political. This is a way to say that I'm in this with all my sisters worldwide, and we will uplift each other instead of tearing each other. That's just one of them. I'm also like doing videos and watching.
Yeah, she's got a great, oh man. I hope we get to post your music video soon, which is something new for you, directing a music video. Just
also in preparation for that artist residency, because we're going to be on a boat for 3 weeks, one of these ice-breaking boats. So just thinking in my head, how can I tell others what this experience is going to be like? So video is definitely part of what my work's going to be like from now on too.
Okay, and that's as of COVID, huh? Kind of.
Yes, completely.
It's amazing. it's amazing, from the ashes, from very, very difficult times. Victoria?
Thank you.
Yeah, this question comes from Terry Harvath. Thank you so much for this wonderful discussion. Sometimes we are experiencing financial issues and some argue against spending resources on art, but can you address the importance there are in these economic times to spend money on art?
First of all, you have to support great artists, right?
Yes, please.
And because their messages are important and they are rarely defenders of the status quo. But of course, the nicest thing about this piece of artwork, and I don't know if you covered this, but Miss Anthony donated this to UC Davis.
No way.
Yes,
Really?
yes, she did. And I was very grateful for that. It was sort of
Oh
a
my God.
sending off present, if you will, for me to do better and well. And so
And to kick some butt and to make a difference.
and to kick some butt and to make a difference.
Right on, right
And
on.
that's why it belongs in my office, because it's an inspiration to do just that. And in terms of art, you know, I will point out, you know, we do have a fair amount of art in the North Edition office building, in which this art piece sits as well. And we, you know, we didn't make a big deal about it, but we made an amazing effort to actually buy art from local Sacramento and area artists. That is, we didn't go out and spend a lot of money to spend a lot of money. You can't just have bare walls. It feels a little kind of sterile and not a really nice working environment. But you can actually, for relatively little money, buy original artwork from local artists and really support the local art community. And that's what we sought to do.
That's awesome.
And I got kudos to the building people who actually spend so much time actually curating that.
Can I say something also on that? As we know, a lot of the museums are closed. The museums have furloughed most of their staff, and that includes everyone. The artists, there are no exhibits right now, which is most artists like myself and all of my colleagues live obviously from our work. The economic situation in the art world is horrific. It really is. And no one really outside of the art world is talking about this. So please do support. This is the time. You will get amazing, amazing art for a lot less than it normally would go for. And you will be helping your artistic community. So they're out there, they need your help, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. For those who joined late, I just want to explain the pictures, the photos on this PowerPoint slide. This is not something you look on just as a two-dimensional piece of art. If you look to the right, you'll see that that's a real saxophone. Those are real album covers. The flag is real. And that's me at the bottom to show how massive it is. And while you used to have an appointment to see this in Dr. Lubarsky's office, in the North Tower, he has it out in a hallway. So it's accessible to a lot more folks. Questions?
I think it says, yeah, I think it says a lot about the entire commitment of the entire C-suite at UC Davis Health. And it's not just my personal commitment, and that's why it does belong out there and not inside just my office.
If folks want to see it, would they be able to just come by to see it? And I know I had to ring a doorbell to get into the C-suite.
Yeah, you know, I'm not really in charge of that, but I would love for people to come by and see it. As a matter of fact, maybe, you know, we can actually talk about actually displaying it in the North Edition office building lobby for some time. I don't own it. As I mentioned, it belongs to UC Davis, and if we think that it would be inspirational or beneficial to have it out in that giant lobby where people come into the North Edition, I'd be great, or even in the lobby of the hospital.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I think that would.
I'm, you know, I can live with a blank wall for a few months.
I think that would be awesome. It is a piece that speaks to folks, and I just want to show the book that Leonor has put together about this piece. and Jorge and I will donate this to the library. I don't know when all of us are going to be able to visit, but part of the book is things like this, these photos that are facsimiles of original photos.
Well, those were the, if I may, those were the promotional photographs of those artists that they gave to Roberto's father. That's why they're all signed. So I wanted to start the story of Sounds of Freedom with their gift to someone in Italy to allow them to come in through the front door to bring our music to Europe right after the war.
It is so poignant that people had to leave the United States to be allowed in the front door, huh? That's
At that time they did.
Yeah. So this is another piece by Mr. Mingus, who's huge in the art, in the jazz world, and
that was a letter I found in a box.
Yeah.
In a box.
So it's a really interesting experience to go through this book, and again, we'll leave it in the we'll have it in the library or somewhere else, and so you can experience it too. More questions?
This question comes from Ms. B2827. In Leonor's rendition, WTF, can you talk a little bit about the inspiration for your art?
Yes, that's a strong piece that even though it's called WTF, it actually stands for Willingly Towards Freedom. And in that piece, you have, once again, an American flag is the protagonist, but then there's hands, and the hands are all black. And so in that piece, I am basically telling us in my visual language that this country was built by black hands, black and brown hands. Our White House, in the little stars of the flag, I put all the astronauts and everything that we've been able to accomplish, which is a lot in a mere 200 and plus years. But a lot of that was built on hands that were not purely white. So it's a recognition of how we got even all these pieces and the flag being tattered a little bit. We need to know where we've been in order to see our way forward. So that's that piece. That's why all those black hands are everywhere, because those hands build our country.
So this is another piece, WTF. Go ahead, Victoria.
Well, I guess because of time, I just wanted to make sure this, a couple more questions that I felt were pretty poignant.
Yes.
Regarding this piece, however, could you tell us a little bit about why, what the corner piece of "We Insist" means to you, Ms. Anthony?
Thank you for that question. That is an actual record, but that was Max Roach, and that was the album cover. And in that album cover, I wish we had a picture of it, because what I have here is just a little corner. It was remember when John Lewis was going to these like soda counters and these places, him and the Freedom Riders, and they were just getting completely demolished just for sitting and asking for something to drink. In the cover of this album, you have white people are the servers, and a lot of the musicians are the ones insisting to be served. And this was so revolutionary, this photograph and this album cover, that for years, almost 10 years, they were not able to launch the record. And they insisted they would not have it done until it was done like they wanted. So we insist now. We talk. We insist that we make a change. And we insisted the same way that they do, through music, through art, through nonviolent means, but we insist. Absolutely.
This question comes from Dr. Eric Fernandez y Garcia. Should artists remain apolitical when the art they create has political interpretations? Should they, quote unquote, correct misinterpretations of their work?
Oh, no. I love that question. That's a great question. I can't remain apolitical. I am an activist. So, but yet I want whoever to, if it touches you, then it touches you for different reasons. I have a really quick anecdote. One of the first flags that I made, one of the first flag series, I even surrounded it with barbed wire because I was making a point about prison reform, which I work I have a friend that's on death row, and art brought us together. That's another conversation. But yeah. The person who bought this painting is someone who I know he's a bit of a racist. So I didn't tell him what that piece was about. He just loved that flag. And then he put it when you walked into his house. It was the first thing you saw. Mm. And that taught me a big lesson. I pour my heart out. I make my work. My work is my voice. So those are my convictions. This is how I feel. But you can see it a completely different way, and that's fine too. If it touched you in any way, then I achieved something. I achieved a lot, actually.
More, Victoria? Can I just say in these final minutes, maybe we have time for one or two more questions. I've got 12:57, shoot. Okay. Yeah. I want you to really look at this piece, because I didn't have this thought before, but framing these questions and going through this process, I really think the origins and the solutions for health disparities by race are in this piece. If we can look at racism and what Leonor is trying to say to us, overlaying them on a Rent American flag. One more question.
No, I think a lot of them are comments about people feeling connected to the artwork, and thank you for having this session.
We'll send all those your way, Leonor, and your way too.
Thank you,
Dr. Lubarsky. Wow. So should I close?
Sure.
I don't want to go. Can I say just my profound gratitude to all of you, and this has been so humbling, and I'm about to cry, so I'm gonna not say a whole lot. But this means the world to me.
It's good to see. I'm really glad I did take the artwork out of my office, because it does belong to generate, especially now. I mean, it came with me 2 years ago, but it's been never more appropriate to display it than now, just because I think it's important for everybody to understand that hopefully our administration's response to what we've seen around us in the last several months is not something that is not a response to that, but a deep and heartfelt commitment, and that Leonor and I share that commitment to equity, and have long before I came to Davis.
I just think it's really cool that you would do this, Dr. Lubarsky. I really do. And your connection to this piece and to Leonor just connects our community, I think, in ways that kind of break out of our usual intellectual, cognitive, academic selves. Amazing.
Well, thank you, Jann, for organizing this. This is honestly, it is your idea, to be honest. So let's, the credit goes where credit is due. to engage the conversation.
Yes, Jan.
Great.
Well, listen, I have a
Thank
lot
you.
of harebrained ideas that don't go this far. So, okay. I think
Don't
you
we
all had
all?
yeah, I think you all had something to do with it. There's a short evaluation, just 5 or 6 questions, I believe, that'll be emailed to you if you're on this. Feel free not to fill it out. We just kind of want to gather whether this was useful, moving to you, how it relates to your work. And then there'll be a space to give comments to Miss Anthony, and I know from last night how much comments on her work mean. And how do you say thank you to a world-renowned artist who's just so generous with her soul and her work? Again, thank you for all of those who made this possible, the Office of Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion and their staff. And I'm gonna close there because I'm a bad sayer of goodbyes. But don't go
Thank you
anywhere,
all.
Leonor. Okay.
And Leonor, thank you. You all have a great
Thank
day.
you, David.
Thank you, Dr.
too.
Lubarsky.
Everybody,
Thank
thanks
you.
for
Bye.
spending your lunch with us. Thank you.
Thank you.